Hi everyone, welcome to Monkeys Monday. Once again, it's Sathish, and as part of our learning series, today we are going to learn about dynamic data in SPFx. Most of us might have used whoever was a legacy developer might have used the term called connected web parts. I'm sure that many of our legacy SharePoint developers who worked from 2007 or to 2010 might have heard of this word connected web parts. So connected web parts in SPFX is called as dynamic data. It's nothing but it is similar to our connected web parts in the legacy development era. So what is a connected web part? For the benefit of the new developers, what is a connected web part? Probably in SPFX, we might have seen that we are passing the value from one component to another component using the props. And we are passing a value or passing the data within the component through state. Right? Basically, it's the principle of React. Like whenever you want to pass the data between two different component, then you need to use the props, or within the component you need to use the state. What if I do have two different web parts and I want to pass the data from one web part to the other web part, and the second web part, that is the consumer web part, needs to um, work based upon the value changed or the data passed by the source. So that's called that particular technique is called the dynamic data. It's very simple, and today the agenda, it is we are not going to have a detailed PPT and all today. Instead, as I said, the Monkeys Monday series itself, it's no PPT and only the VS Code. That's the objective of this series. So adhering to that principle, I have only two slides. One is the introduction and one is the agenda. That's it. So today, what are all the things we are going to learn? We are going to learn about what is dynamic data, and what is the scenario we use dynamic data, and the next one is how to implement the dynamic data. It's straightforward. There is nothing much on it. So quickly, and let me go to the screen. Let me quickly stop sharing and start a different VM. Give me a minute. Yeah, probably you guys should be able to see the new VM. Yeah. So as I said, it is going to be two web parts. One is one is going to be our source web part, and the second one is going to be our consumer web part. Now let's see how we are going to pass the data from source to the consumer. Before jumping into this VS Code and creating a new project, what we can do is we'll have a little more brief introduction about what is dynamic data is all about. Yeah. So dynamic data, it is nothing but the data shared between two or more SharePoint framework web part. That's called dynamic data. And this is the data is sharing based upon the source notification model. Source notification in the sense the source will notify the consumer, and at the same time the consumer might have registered for that notification with that source, right? It might be a bit tricky. There is no other way. Let me explain one more time. That is the source. Whenever some data, something has been changed on the source, and the source web part will notify the consumer web part, or will notify the other web parts, whoever is subscribed for this particular change, right? Basically, it is a event driven kind of stuff. Like whenever a new event happens on one web part, that event might trigger a notification, and that notification will be consumed by the consumer or the second web part. That's the key thing here. That's it. It is nothing more there is nothing more to explain on it. Whenever we jump into the code, you should be able to understand better, right? So with that introduction, let me stop it. What I was doing is, just before this call, I was about to create a new solution. So the solution creation, as all of us know, it'll take a minimum 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, let the solution gets created, and in the meanwhile, what I will do is I have created one more solution. The entire VM it got created today only. Here, if you have a look on it, I have a web part. I created a solution, and this particular solution is having only one web part. I named it as test source, and the entire solution I named it as test. Basically, I thought of giving a meaningful name. That's the reason I created another solution, Monkeys Monday demo kind of stuff. But unfortunately, still it is running. It's been running for the last 10 minutes. I'm not sure how big the packages node modules are now. So we don't want to wait until that gets completed. Instead, what I'm going to do is, let's go back to our solution, the test solution, and give a gulp serve. Let's have a look how it works. Okay, so give me a minute. The gulp serve still it is running. It started the server. Let me close this. Yep. And on this page, I have a source called, I have a web part called test source. This is the default web part. I have not yet started customizing anything on it. So you will be seeing this one. So now what we are going to do is, let's open that and go to the component. Basically, before jumping into the source, what I'm trying to do is, on the source, I'm going to have a few, I'm going to have a drop down. That drop down will have few countries list, like Chennai, Mumbai, Calcutta, whatever it is. I'm going to have some sort of cities, or some sort of cities in it, and not the country, sorry, some sort of cities on the drop down. And whenever I select a particular city, the second web part, that is the consumer web part, is going to display the temperature or the weather on that particular city. Okay, so the web part 1, it is going to have a drop down with the cities, and web part 2, it is going to call a web API and call an API and get the temperature or weather of the selected web part, selected city on the first web part. Okay, so with that assumption, let's go back. Yeah, I'm going to delete all these things. Yeah, we don't want where to where. Yeah, this to this. Instead, what we are going to do, I'm going to use a drop down. Okay, let's see that how it works. Okay, I do have a drop down, and to use the drop down, we need to have the React UI components. So what is the, I need to import the React. What I'm going to import, drop down from Office UI Fabric slash lib slash drop down. Okay, right. Cannot find the module office. Why it is not there? Go to the terminal. Okay. Yep. Now we got it. And the drop down, it is going to have few parameters. What are all the things I'm going to give? Let's give a label for that. Giving a label for as a city and options. I'm going to have the options like I'm going to create few state variables. So let us see. This is the state variable I'm going to have. And as usual, that is I'm going to give some styles for it. And we are going to have, this is very important. I'll tell you what exactly this is. The on changed, usually what are all the events will be handled within the component, within that .tsx itself. Basically what I'll do, I might have had it like this dot on change, and here I will write the on change method, right? Private on change, and I will get the event. I'll get the event here, and we can even dot whatever we want, we can have it. So instead here, what I'm going to do is, instead of calling this on change, we are going to pass the value, pass the on change to the webpart.ts. So as a property, as I told you, whenever we want to pass something from a component to the web part or pass something from a component with to another component, we need to use the props of it. So let's see what exactly we are going to use in the props. Okay, so before proceeding, let's open the props and have a couple of things. And before that, like I'm going to create a new folder and I'm naming it as data. Within that, I'm creating a new file or new interface, city.ts. Okay, I'm going to have a simple file or simple entity kind of stuff. Here, what I'm going to do, as usual, interface iCity, right? And then this is going to be having two things, key and the text. So this is what I'm going to bind on the web part, right? Let's go back here. Okay, and this drop down style, let me create a constant and name it as drop down styles. So I'm naming a drop down styles. What exactly it is going to be? I drop down styles. It's a template. Yeah. So we are not going to discuss about these templates now. Just whatever the styles you want to give, you can give it here. Okay. And Alt Shift F will format it for me. Okay. And still it is having some exception. Why still it is not there? Constant drop down options is missing. Okay. So the options, we need to create a cities. Let's create a new file called itest source state.ts. Okay, I'm creating a new state. On that state, I'm going to keep two things, a couple of things, right? So what are all the options called, the entire options called city. Okay, we will create export interface I test source state. and within that I'm going to keep two things: cities any and selected city, right? So the selected city, and instead of giving this as any, what we can do is, that's the reason I created an entity, right? Import iCity from // will go with the trial and error // data / and iCity. So with this I created a state, and instead of this any, I'm going to keep this as an array of iCity, right? iCity, let's go back and have a look on this. iCity is nothing but an entity which is having two parameters, two properties: key and text. Okay, and here we got it, and we need to pass the state here. To pass the state, we need to, we'll have a input the state. Okay, and we are going to pass the state here. That's it. And once we pass the state, we need to initialize that. We are going to create a constructor, and the constructor is going to get the props as the parameter, and as usual it is going to be super props, and then I'm initializing this dot state equal to, we're going to initialize the states. What are all the states we have? We have two states. One is cities, and it is going to be an empty array, and then the other one is city. It's going to be a empty string. That's it. So I have initialized the props, right? And then what else we need to, import the options. Then only, that's the reason the drop down is throwing an error. I drop down option. Okay. Yep. We imported the options. Now let's see. Even now why it is. Why it is. Okay. That's what. So now we created a source web part, and that particular source web part, it is going to have few cities. So this few cities, okay, cities, we need to populate the cities. So where do we need to populate the state? We need to populate it on the component did mount, right? So public component did mount, and did component did mount is also a special method which will have a void. Okay, and here we are going to set state. Set state, and put here, let me create cities colon, it's going to be an array. Okay, this array, it's going to have a object. What is that object? Key. Let's say that we will have it as Chennai, and the text is again for here at this point of time there is nothing but Chennai. That's it. In the same manner, let me create few more cities. That's it. Okay. So let's create what's the temperature for Mumbai. Mumbai, it's in the flood, right? Okay, Mumbai. And let's say for London, or and then we'll have it as Paris or any other. It's okay. So with this, we are done with our source web part. Let's see whether, and only one thing is pending. We need to create the property, and that this particular on change event should be handled on the webpart.ts through the props. So as of now, I'm not passing anything. I just want to go step by step. Let's see whether we are getting a drop down. Yep, we got the drop down, and we'll see, have a look on that. Okay, I'm having the Chennai, Mumbai, all these things we are having. Okay, so let's see on change. We'll see whether it got triggered. Alert changed. Just giving. Yeah. Let's see. Give a couple of seconds so that the workbench will get reloaded. It got reloaded. Yeah, now we got the message. It has been changed. Okay, let it change. Now what we need to do, as I said, this particular click event should be handled on the TS file. Okay, for that we are going to create a property. What we can do is on city change. That's the property which I'm going to, and what exactly it is going to get? It's going to get the selected city, right? And what it is going to return? It's going to return nothing. And so to use that, again we need to import the ICT. Okay, we need to import that interface from, let's again go by trial and error. See, this one still I'm not very confident, like how many dots we need to give. Every time I used to go with the trial and error. Okay, and this is what on city changed. I introduced a new property, and this new property should be passed for this TSX. How it is going to be passed? Let's go back to the TS. Okay, and let's go back to the constructor of that web part. Yep. So here, let me import the city once again here. This interface, that's the reason I'm keeping the interface as outside of the web part, because on the consumer web part also we need to import, in many places we need to import this interface. Okay, so this is what basically whatever the data we need to travel, we need to pass between the web parts, keep that as a separate entity. Okay, that will be really easy. Okay, so data slash ICT. Okay, I'm importing it, and what we can do is we are going to have a okay, we are going to have a variable. What is the variable? Private selected city. I'm going to keep a private selected city with ICT. Okay, and then on city change, like we need to pass the parameter, right? What exactly we need to pass? on the render, we need to call on the render only. We are calling the test source tsx. For that, we need to pass during that time itself. We need to pass the on city change. What is the parameter, like the property on city changed? Here I'm going to have on city change. Okay, so on city change, what is going to be there? It's going to be a private method on city change. Okay, so you will get it cleared. Right now, let's go and write few things. What exactly it is? This on city change, I'm going to get the city value, right? Instead of this, what we can do is it's going to consume the city, and the return, it's not going to return anything. Okay, that's perfect. What we can do is I'm going to alert city. Let's see what exactly it is happening. So what we are doing now, we are just handling the on change event of this component or of this particular component and handle it on the TS. Instead of here, we are going to handle it there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this. As soon as I remove, I will get an exception or I'll get an error here. And to remove that error, what we can do is, I'll show you what exactly it needs to be written. There are a couple of things will come. Selected city, and this is what the method is going to be. Here, this dot props dot on city changed. This is the property which we are passing from there. What we are going to call this dot state dot cities. On the cities array, I'm going to get the selected city. I'm going to pass the selected city. That's it. So got it right? So here, instead of handling the click event on this component itself, I'm passing the click event from the component to the web part, right? So that's the reason on city changed will be handled here. And as soon as it got, what I'm going to do, we are going to give an alert. That's it. We are not doing anything else. So let's refresh once and ensure that till now it works. Let me select. Okay, we are getting it. The selected city object, we got it. So selected city, as I said, it is a object. So to get the name, what we can do is selected city dot key. Okay, key or text, both the things are in our case, both the things are going to have the same value. Give me a minute. Let's see whether it got created. Yeah, it will refresh on its own. Okay, yeah. See, we got it right. And now, instead of this alert, what we are going to do, we are going to create a meaningful notification, right? What I'm going to do, this is like before proceeding, before establishing a connection, let's create one more. Let's create one more web part. Yeah, I'm going to stop the gulp serve. CLS VO Microsoft dash SharePoint. Okay. Okay, I'm going to create a web part. What's the name of the web part? Let's see, test consumer. Okay, so the test consumer, again it's going to be the React framework. Let's see whether we got the second web part. So this web part, as I said, before establishing a connection, we will create the web part and we will create the structure of the web part. It is nothing but it is going to call a web API, and it will get the temperature. The web API will give back some of the informations like the temperature, humidity, weather, whatever it is. So it's going to give, if you pass the city, it will give back my temperature related information, right? So that's it. We'll create it. So now what we can do is, again, let me run the gulp serve. Okay. So on the new workbench, I could see there are two parts. One is the source and one is the consumer. Okay, perfect. Let me add the source on the top and let's add the consumer at the bottom. Okay, this is what, like the objective, what we are going to do, whenever I select a particular city, that should come, the temperature should come here. Okay, so before that, let me go back. Yeah, this is the consumer, and let's open the TSX. Before that, let's create one more state here. I test consumer state.ts and export interface. I test consumer state. Okay, now let's see here what are all the things we are going to keep. Before that, let me delete the things. Okay, and here let's put a simple div. That's it. The temperature in the selected city, right? Here I'm going to give the selected city name. Okay, and then is what is the temperature? And this is, there are two things like this dot state dot. I'm going to keep two different values. One is the city and the other one is the temperature. Okay, so let's see what else we may need. Yeah, and this temperature, it's going to be a JSON, so let me keep it as any. Okay, and on the TSX you will get an exception. So for that, what we need to do, we need to import it. Guys, I don't like, I just wanted to do everything on this particular demo. That's the reason I have not created anything else prior, and we are creating everything. So it's not just only for the dynamic data, it's for how to handle the props and how to handle the state also. So that's the reason I'm doing one by one. Okay. So what we can do is, let me create the temperature, let me assign the temperature and the state also, this dot state dot city. Okay. And as all of us know, we need to create a constructor and we need to create a constructor for this one. And after the constructor, we need to create the component did mount. Okay. So let me create a constructor, and the constructor gets the parameter props. Okay. And we are going to give the super props, and then I'm going to create or initialize my state. What exactly? Temperature, and the other one is city, right? Okay. So I created my constructor, and after that, let's create the component did mount. Like usually, I'll tell you why the async is coming. Component did mount. And in that component did mount, we are going to use it. Okay. And before that, we need to, as usual, we need to import the city. Let's import the city. Okay. And we created a constant called cities. Okay. And another constant, city data, and it is going to be the type of iCity, or it's going to be undefined, and I'm going to get the value of this city. Okay. And let's see, let's write what exactly it is coming. Yeah. So okay, why the city, the constant city still it is. City does not exist on the read only list consumer props. Okay. So what we need to do, we'll go to the props and see. Yeah. On the props, we need to import again. Okay. And here I'm declaring a variable called in. So now we should be able to see it. The exception might have gone in. Okay, that's perfect. Now with this, let's see, like after the component gets mounted, I'm going to call the API, right? As I said. Okay. And let the temperature If the city data is not equal to null, then we will have another method. Like before doing this, let's have that method. Okay, I'm going to write a new method. Okay, public get temperature async. Okay, right, async, right. And what exactly it is going to return? It's going to return a promise. Okay, yep. Okay, here we are going to call, or I'm going to return the call of a URL. Okay, so this is what the URL is. We will fill that one, and then I'm going to resolve the results. Okay, yeah, res.json, and then once it got resolved, and then we are going to return the right. So it is as simple as that, but it looks a bit complex. But let's say let's enable that one. Like let's make it one by one. It will be easy. Okay. So the first step, what we are going to do, we are going to fetch, and this fetch it expects an API, as I said. What is the API? And I have few APIs. I'll tell you. api.openweathermap.org/data/2.5. See, this is nothing but an open API. There is nothing much. Give me quickly. Let me copy it from the URL. Oh my god, it is having a GUID. Okay, let me quickly grab that GUID. Give me a minute. I will quickly grab that GUID. Okay, so we got the city name. Okay, yeah. As soon as the component got mounted, I'm going to call this get temperature method. Okay, right? So here what I'm going to do, I'm creating a temporary variable, and on that variable I'm calling this method get temperature method, and this method will return me a JSON, and I'm setting the state. Like, there are two things, two state variables I'm setting. One is the city and the other one is the temperature. And by default, whenever the first time the property or the web part gets loaded, since because the user might have not selected anything, I'm passing the value as Chennai as the default state. Okay, default state for this city, it is going to passed as a Chennai, and based upon this it will be returned. Okay, so that's the objective of this one. Okay, let me save it. It got saved. Let's see. Let's wait for a minute. So now if I am not selecting anything, it should display the temperature of Chennai. Okay, what we can do is the first time we will pass the name as city name. City name is coming as empty. That's the reason it renders without anything. So this state yeah, here the property, what we can do is instead of the city, I'm going to introduce this dynamic property. We'll see what exactly the dynamic property is all about. Okay. And here the props is done, the state is done. Okay, and the TSX, there are a couple of things which we will do. Let's verify whatever the things we have imported. We need to import the state. Yeah, we have imported the state, we have imported the city. Okay, and the constructor is done, and the component did mount, it is also done. Okay, and get the temperature of Chennai. Okay, get the temperature of Chennai. It should get the temperature of Chennai. Why it is not at? Let's see. Let's refresh one more time. Okay, it's not even displaying it. Okay, so let's put a debugger. Yep. Okay, try get value of undefined. This is what it's okay. City is undefined, right? Okay, it shouldn't be like this, but the props, since because it is in the props, it should get right. Okay, it should get. Why it is? Mhm. It's getting reloaded. Okay, let it be. We don't need to focus on this one. Let's see. Like unless otherwise, it will be automatically get the temperature of Chennai and then it will show you. Right. So here, let's proceed with our other components. The component did mount is done and component did update. We'll have a look on it. Or else considering the timelines or considering the time, let me quickly go back. Give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. Hope you are able to see that, right? Let me quickly go to the command prompt. I stopped the gulp. Give me a minute. Hello, Anba. Are you there? Anba, I think you are on mute. Okay, I have stopped that one and started the gulp serve again. I don't know how long it will take. It will take it's taking a longer time than the expected. Oh my god, the build failed. Why it got failed? Okay, it shouldn't be there. Okay. Basically, what we are trying to do is we are trying to establish a connection between the source and the consumer, right? So for that, there is a property called we need to import or we need to notify the consumers from the source web part. So let me go to the source web part and Here if you could see, this is what the dynamic data. This is the package which we need to import, and it has two things. One is the iDynamic property definition and one is the iDynamic data callable. And these two things, this particular web part itself, it should get implement this particular interface, iDynamic data callable. As soon as this implements or as soon as this inherits this data callable, we need to have two properties which we need to, like the first method is get property definition and the second method is get property value. So both the things we need to declare. I'll explain you what these two things in maybe in another session or something like that. And as I said, we need to handle this on city change, right? On city change, I'm going to notify. This is what the notification is happening. Okay, notify property changed. So this particular line, what it does is whatever the web parts on the page, it is subscribed. So those web parts will be notified by this particular line. That's it. And on the consumer web part, yeah, on the consumer web part, again, I have a property pane, and on the property pane, we're going to introduce a new dynamic field set. So this new dynamic field set, what it will do, as soon as you add the web part on the page and edit the web part on the property pane, there will be a drop down, and on that drop down you can select what is your source or what to which web part we are going to subscribe. So for that, usually you would have seen that this is a string field set or this is an option field set like that. Now it's a new field set called dynamic field set, and this dynamic field set, I'm selecting it for the city, and this city is being notified from here. Okay, that is how it exactly it works. And I'm not sure what exactly the exception occurs here, and considering the timeline, I'm going to stop it here. We will continue. Let me fix this exception and let me continue on the next Monday. Okay, thank you.